so many years and is as outstanding in so many ways as is Moe Howard, who was the leader and the orchestrator and the big brother of the Three Stooges. Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Those are very wonderful words, Bob. Coming from you, I believe.
Appreciate that. I think most people would want to know, other than the basic questions, who were the brothers and how many Curlys, and we will get to them. But most people would want to know how the Three Stooges shtick, the peculiar bits of, twirling somebody's nose and hitting him in the eye, how that all started.
Well, it started with me alone, and the boys used to say, I think this guy stays awake half the night figuring out ways to punish us. And it just happened. I mean, if they say something I didn't like or did something I didn't like, I'd vary the things. I mean, I'd grab him by the nose, or I'd hit him in the stomach, or I'd poke him alongside of the eyes.
This is off stage, or?
Oh, no. No, this is right there. Right there. I mean, they never knew which one I was going to use when I used it, on the films.
I'm sorry, I probably phrased the question wrong, Mo.
What?
How did you come on to this, unique approach to comedy? Where did it start? I mean, nobody sat down and wrote for you, well, Mo will hit Curly and so. When did you discover it? Was it in a card game, or?
Well, the poking in the eye was discovered in a card game, playing contract bridge. Larry claimed he had 4 honors when he only had 3. Shem proved to him that he had, and Larry still insisted that he had 4. So Shem threw his fingers and, like this, here I am here.
I want more money for this.
Well, Shem poked him in the eye. His fingers went about a half-inch deep right into Larry's eyeballs.
Uh-huh. And Larry must have been thrilled.
Oh, sure. There was tears falling out of his eyes for a week. And it struck me so funny that I leaned backwards in the chair and went right through a glass window. The door.
Right.
Through that glass window. And the next matinee at the Paramount Theater in Los Angeles, we were working there.
Doing a kind of regular vaudeville.
Yes, a personal appearance is what
right.
we called it. And there was one line in the act where I said, now, who was the manager of this act? And they both came from 2 different sides, and both said simultaneously, I am. As he said that, I reached both hands like that, see? Like this even.
Right.
And the audience laughed real loud and long.
Right.
And I said, boy, that stays in. As many other things. Now, if they said something that didn't sound right to me, I just let one fly. I didn't know whether it was a smack or a crack on the forehead like this, one of those things. Got any aspirin? And,
or another show?
So I say it wasn't planned, like sitting down and say, look, when you say this, I'm going to hit you with this or so. No. I just did it when I felt like doing it, and when I felt that they deserved it. They got it.
Shemp, you and
Larry
were
the original 3.
Originals.
Then Shemp, in 1932, got the opportunity to play the character Nobby in the Joe Palooka pictures on the coast.
And Shemp was your brother?
My older brother,
right.
Yes. He was 2 years older than I. So he was concerned about who we were going to use for a third party. So I said, don't worry, Shemp, this is your opportunity. You go ahead. We'll get the kid brother Curly. And Curly was my younger brother by 5.5 years. So we did. We called for Curly, who had been working with someone else, and he came in and joined. And the funny part of it was that, Shemp had hair parted in the middle long on the side, and he always used to push it back like that. Larry had wild hair.
Right.
So when Curly came in, I tried to figure out how could Curly wear his hair that would be funny. He said, don't worry about it. I'll be back in a half hour. And he did. Oh, and he had a waxed mustache originally, you see, and beautiful brown wavy hair. Half hour later, he comes back with a cap and the mustache, takes his hat off. He was as bald as a cue ball. And I said, that's wonderful.
Right, and you hit him one.
No, not at that point. He was hit bad enough with that haircut.
You said he was a bad study when we were talking earlier.
Hard study, not bad study, hard study. Yes, he...
This is Curly we're talking about.
Yes, Curly. So that whenever we were doing a scene and he forgot any of the lines, instead of quitting, he would go into some kind of an action. On occasion, he'd fall to the floor and spin around like a top until
Right.
he remembered what he had to say, or he'd do a backward kick step
Sure.
like this. Sometimes they had to cut the film because he did that so long you could have had a feature film of him going backwards, you see.
He never could remember. That's a hard study.
That's a hard study. And,
Well, how about when he would go, whoop, 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 I feel like a fool, but when he would go,
he,
whoop,
just
whoop,
the
whoop,
same
whoop,
as I, did things that I felt were right to do, smack, poke, bing.
Right.
Well, his element, he could probably break me in half with his strength, you know. But the extent of his thing was, or like that,
Right.
or bounce his hand up and down in front of my head, and I would go like that, and then he'd go boom like that. And for that, he'd get a bang, bing, bang all around, see that, hit the hand on top of
Right.
that. Once he did it with a cigar in his hand that was lit. So see that? I hit his hand. The cigar went around, hit him on the head, and the sparks flew all over the place, in the middle of his head. I laughed at this.
Yeah, I'm sure you laughed. You were always hitting them.
And the funny part of it was when people used to talk to us, they used to ask the other boys. No, they used to ask me, "How does it feel? Does it hurt when they get hit?" And Larry said, "Who are you asking? They ask us."
You never did get hit. They never got you
Oh, in
back.
the films, I really got beat up. One picture of fixing the electric works in the kitchen of this place.
Uh-huh.
And they were in another room pulling a wire, which I had the bell in my hand. They pulled my hand through.
Right.
Then this went up and back from one room to the other. Finally, I tied it around my hand like that.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and they gave a pull, and I went head first right through the wall. And they had a big beam up there. It was a balsa beam, 8 by 8.
Right.
Came right down the back of my head, see? They didn't know about that. It was loose up there. Then...
But by the way, were the hits, the bings, the bangs, were they real? I mean, were you really?
Oh,
hitting
yes, every one of them. Real good and hard. And we...
How did you get along off stage? Did you like
Very
them?
well.
You were never letting your aggressions out or anything?
Never.
Well, don't
The
hit me
only
again.
time I
no.
got real mad was when my partner Larry missed a show. They forgot to give him a call at the hotel. Wake him up.
Okay, were the hits stronger next show?
It was. In that case, it wasn't a hit in the belly. It was a smack across the kisser.
And what was his reaction?
He came into the theater backstage, and he didn't realize. So with the stagehand, the electrician on the board says, "Hey, Larry, you're on." He says, "How am I doing?" He was clowning.
Yeah, right.
Then he saw us out there, see, and he came out. He says, "You know what happened to me?" He said, "To me." I said, "No, but I know what's going to happen to you right now." And I gave him a welt. And about a half hour later, you can still see little 5 red fingers on his face.
You made up a lot of your stuff as you went along in the pictures, which was
Yes.
unheard of
Yeah,
in the
that-
late days of films when you guys were still very popular. In the early days with silence and all, they did make them up as they
Oh,
went
yeah,
along.
sure.
But I mean, when you guys were still
the-
big stars, you were still ad-libbing as you went along.
Well, there's a cue word. You couldn't do that, consistently. There was a cue word. If one of the boys would say, "Now, wait a minute," that was a cue that he thought of something funny right there, rather than talk over anyone. And if it wasn't funny, he got a double poke,
Give him a little
with
shot.
crack on the skull besides. So that if he didn't get the laugh, the action would. So it never stopped.
Right. How many pictures did you make in all?
Well, short pictures, we made 5 at MGM and 200 at Columbia Pictures, where we had a 24-year straight contract. And then we did 5 features at MGM, and we did about 10 features at Columbia.
Now, you were an actor, a single actor, dramatic and comedy, before the act got together. What year did
Oh,
you
yes.
make your first picture?
Well, the first film I was in was in 1908
1908.
at the Vitagraph Studio in Brooklyn with Maurice Costello and names that nobody can remember now, but they were stars: John Bunny and Flora Finch, Florence Tyner, Lillian Walker, Earl Williams.
Well, you're right about that, Mo.
Yeah.
Can't remember
I say,
those.
but they were stars of their day.
Yeah.
And then I made
Florence Finch, maybe, but it's...
Flora Finch and John Bunny were pairs. She was the
Well,
tall,
right.
skinny one, and he was a big fat fella.
Right.
Anyhow, made 6 two-reel sport comedies with old Honus Wagner, the Pittsburgh Pirate shortstop.
The amazing part of this is, as we were sitting here before we went on, we had gone through already 2 or 3 Stooges on the air, 2 or 3 of the shorties, and Mo, in the middle of conversations, everybody's asking him questions, would hear a cue line from Curly or somebody, and he'd turn around and do his line. He'd say, well, you'll take that, yeah. And then he'd come back and talk to you.
Yeah, well,
So
we were
you
very
remember
funny.
all of those lines.
Yes. Now, I have to tell you a cute thing. You know, my wife wrote one of the very excellent stories that we did called Hoi Polloi. That was the tail end of that picture is when my kid brother Curly had a stroke. But she used to come like 2 o'clock in the morning. She would nudge me and say, "Honey, I think this would be very funny for one of your scenes." I said, "Well, why are we whispering?" She says, "I don't want to wake you up." This kind of thing, you know, and this doesn't just only happen once. This is a kind of a consistent routine.
Mrs. Howard is in the studio with us, by the way, today. May I
Yes.
ask how old you are now, Mo?
I don't have to answer. You may ask.
No.
I will gladly. On June the 19th of this year, I will be 76.
Okay. Well,
The spirit of 76.
you are the spirit of 76. How do you stay so young and vivacious? I mean, I know you're
Now,
making...
vivacious has a bad connotation. Now, you have to watch that. My wife doesn't like those kind of words. No, I don't know. I gave up smoking a long time ago, which I wish everybody else would do, with deep apologies to the tobacco companies. And I keep in action all the time.
Mm-mm. You've never really retired.
Oh, no, that's a real dirty word, retired.
Who were some of the big stars who started their careers or who appeared as bit players in Three Stooges films?
Lucille Ball started with us. She was in one of our comedies called Three Little Pigskins. She was a gun moll in the picture. And then there was Walter Brennan, who was in 2 films with us. He started with us. One was called Restless Nights, and the other one was called, the first comedy we made at Columbia. It was a musical short in rhyme called Woman Haters.
A musical short in rhyme.
Yes. That was
I'm
very
not-
difficult, but we did it.
The whole picture was in
Yes.
rhyme?
Yes. It was written by a very fine songwriter called Archie Gottler, who has since passed away, and he directed the picture. Very well done.
Right.
And then there was this fella, I can't ever think of his name. He was in Sahara, a picture called Sahara, with J. Carroll Nash. A young fella. He was an Olympic man.
I can never think of his name either.
Honey,
well.
do you remember it, honey?
Mrs. Howard?
Okay.
I'm having trouble remembering my name.
Yeah, we both have the same kind of a thing there. No, they keep calling me Mr. Howard. Half the time I don't know who they're talking to.
We're getting time cue, so I want to be
Oh, are
sure
we?
to... I mean, we're not out of time,
Not
but...
getting that, are we?
No. We're doing real well.
I
But
hope.
I want to be sure and tell everybody that you will be appearing live at the John Budd Walt Whitman Theater, which is in Pensacola, New Jersey, this Saturday and Sunday. 2 shows in the afternoon both days, 12 noon and 2 p.m. And, of course, there'll be cartoons and Three Stooges films and so forth for the kids, and 1 evening show each night. What time's the evening show? Do you know? Anybody? 7:15. 1 evening show Saturday
Can I
and
ask you
Sunday.
something?
Sure.
You got time?
Sure.
What's the name of that handsome fella out there with the little mustache?
Handsome fella out there. Paul Conti.
Paul Conti. I did want to say hello to Paul Jr. and Jeffrey, because they're buddies of mine and quite some nice fans, and I appreciate it very much. Okay, Paul Jr.?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't think you know how many fans you have, by the way. I mean, our mail on the Stooges is just unbelievable. I'm sure it's 5 times anything else on the station. And it's not strictly youngsters.
It's nice
As you
to
know,
I-
there's a big college following. You
Yes.
do college concerts, don't you?
Yes. Is that what you call them, concerts?
Well, I don't...
I call them appearances.
Yeah.
I just tell them I'm used to working with a fellow on each side of me, and if there's anybody would like to offer their services, they can come up here. They don't come.
Well, suppose I had offered to come up.
All right, I give you 2 lines to say.
Okay.
For instance, I do a gag with you with 3 wristwatches.
Right.
And you would say, what's the idea of wearing 3 wristwatches? Say it.
What's the idea of wearing 3 wristwatches?
Well, that's how I tell the time. You say, how do you tell the time?
How do you tell the time?
Well, it's very simple. You see, the one on this end runs 10 minutes slow every 4 hours. The one on this end runs 20 minutes fast every 6 hours. The one in the middle is broken. It stopped at 2 o'clock. Well, you say, how do you tell the time?
Well, then how do you tell the time?
Well, I take the 10 minutes on this end, and divide it by the 20 minutes on this end. No, I'm sorry. I take the 10 minutes on this end and subtract it from the 20 minutes on this end and divide by the 2 in the middle. And you say, what time is it now?
What time is it now?
7:45.
I missed that last cue. Do we have to go? We have another minute? What's your favorite Three Stooges film? All time. What's the best that you and the other fellas consider?
I can only give my consideration of which is, and there are 3. One where I played Hitler in You Nasty Spy, the other one called Slippery Silks, and the other one was called Microphonies.
Well, we're having a Three Stooges festival on May the 27th at 8:30 in the evening. It's a Sunday night. Right, Sunday night, May 27th. We start at 8:30. We're going to try and include those if we can. Mo, I want to thank you very, very much
It's
for
been a
coming
pleasure,
and visiting with us
Nice to
today.
see
And I
you.
know it's been a great thrill for everybody out there, and it has for me.
Thank
It really
you.
has, because you are.
Very kind.
I don't is patronizing or anything. You are a legend, and in your own way, a comedic genius, and it's a great
Makes me
pleasure.
feel
for me.
very fine, and I did want to say, if I had forgotten to say it before, Philadelphia has been exceptionally kind to the Three Stooges over the many years. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Got a hell of a nice crew, too. I'll tell you that.
We're going to get back to a film or a commercial now.